All right, everybody. So let's take a look at this. This video will be very short. But suppose we have the number 192. And you know one of the factors is 12, right? What does that mean if I divide this? If I know, for example, if I have 20 and I divide it by 5, I know 5 is a factor of 20. So if I know 5 is a factor of 20, my remainder better be 0, right? The remainder better be 0, and it is, because 4, this is 20 minus blah blah, okay, it is 0. So now what has to happen here? I better get a remainder of 0. And how many times does 12 go into 192? It goes in 16 times, and I get a remainder of 0. Okay? Now, let's look at the next question. Let's see this. So let's say we know it has 3 solutions. Okay? And we know that one of the factors, well, graphically, what does that mean? Take a second and pause the video. What does this mean graphically? It has to cross the x-axis at 3 places. Or you can say, or 3 zeros, or 3 roots, right? These are the new vocabulary words that we need to get used to. But oh wait, let me fix the camera, my bad. It's a little off. Okay. Now, if I know one of the factors of this entire polynomial is x minus 1, what's one of the other solutions? You know one of the other solutions, if I take x minus 1 equals 0, I know x equals 1 is one of the solutions. But then how do I find the others? And the trick is, we got to do something that we haven't done in a week or so, but that is dividing the polynomial. If I take 4x cubed minus 12x squared plus 3x plus 5, and I divide that by x minus 1, what should my remainder be? If I know that this x minus 1 is a factor of this whole thing, I better get a remainder of 0. So let's see what happens. How many times does x go into 4x cubed? What's the algebra, right? What do? You take this goes on the top, this one goes on bottom, and it's 4x squared. Okay, so 4x squared goes here. Boomerang, this becomes 4x cubed, negative 4x squared. And if you feel like you haven't done this in a while, don't just watch me do it. What I want you to do is try it by yourself, pause the video, and take your time. Okay? So then what's the next move over here? Remember, you distribute the negative, so this cancels, and distribute the negative here, so this is positive. So what's negative 12 plus 4? That's negative 8x squared plus 3x plus 5. And then what do you ask yourself? How many times does x go into this? The negative 8x squared goes on top, this goes on the bottom, and this is negative 8x. So this is negative 8x is over here, this goes here, this is negative 8x squared. Negative 8x times this is positive 8x, and then I parentheses subtract. Okay? Distribute the negative, so this becomes positive, this cancels, distribute this, so this becomes negative. So what is 3x minus 8x? That's negative 5x plus 5. And now how many times does x go into negative 5x? You have negative 5x over x, and that's negative 5, and this negative 5 is here, this to this is negative 5x, this to this is 5. Parentheses subtract, and I get 0. Wow. So if you know, we have this now. So now we have 4x squared minus 8x minus 5. Okay? Now that we have this, you see, if I know one of the solutions, if I have x minus 1, I make it equal to 0. What do I need to do to this? I need to make this equal to 0. Now, how do I solve this? What I want you to do is take your time and pause the video and let me see how clever you can be. How do you factor that? Notice, what is your a value? Can you say what two numbers, let me take this real quick, but can you say what two numbers when you multiply them give you negative 5, but when you add them give you negative 8? Absolutely not. You cannot do that, because here your a value is 4. Can you factor out a GCF? Pause the video and think about it. Can you factor a GCF? The answer is no, you can't factor out a GCF. So what's the technique you need to do? You need to do the lovely AC method, okay? So if you don't have it in your notes, what I want you to do is copy this down real quick, but you should have it in your notes. What I want you to do is do the AC method and figure it out. How do you solve this using AC method, okay? I'll do it with you. So let's take a look. 4 times -5 is -20. What two numbers when you multiply give you -20, but when you add give you -8? That will be -10 and 2. So what do you do with that? Remember that -8 is equal to -10 plus 2, so you can say -8x is equal to -10x plus 2x, right? You're allowed to substitute this for these two numbers. So you have 4x squared minus 10x plus 2x minus 5 equals 0. And then I'll just write it again, just so it looks a little nicer to follow. But then what's the next move? Everybody loves this technique, factor by grouping, right? Okay, so now what happens here? What's the GCF of this group? It's 2x. And what happens if I take out 2x? Like, if you get to this point, what I want you to do is, if you stopped at this point, try and do it by yourself, right? So here, 2x, this should be what? Another 2x minus 5. This is plus 1, 2x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, and now that we have the common binomial of 2x minus 5, this 2x minus 5 goes here, and then I have 2x plus 1 goes here, and it equals 0. So then what happens next once I get to this point? What do you have to do? You have to draw the line. And now you're going to say what? That 2x plus 1 equals 0. 2x minus 5 equals 0. So now you have, how do you solve for this? What do? You do minus 1 plus 5, okay? So then this becomes 2x equals 1. This is 2x, I'm sorry, not 1, minus 1. 2x equals 5. Divide both sides by 2, so x is equal to -1/2. And what's the other one? X is equal to 5 over 2. And notice that 5 over 2 is like 2.5. So what does that mean, right? This is one of the solutions. This is the second, and what's the final one is this one. These are the 3 real solutions for this polynomial. So just to recap, how did we do this? We know that this one is a factor, right? So then we found one of the solutions. Then what did we do with that x minus 1? We divided it. And whatever we got for the quotient, we had to factor that one to find the other 2 solutions. Notice that we're using some old things and things that we learned in the past to help us find real solutions. And the last question, and then I will leave you alone in this video, is what does this graph have to look like? This graph here. For this 4x cubed minus 12x squared plus 3x minus 5, what has to happen if you graph it? It better cross, I want you to answer it by yourself, but it better cross x equals 1 and these 2 solutions. Okay, I'll see you.